The afternoon sun beat down on the empty highway outside Jeonju. Minjun twisted the throttle on his Yamaha motorcycle and felt the engine respond with a smooth growl. He had saved money for 8 months to buy this bike. Every one he earned from his part-time job at the convenience store went into his savings account. Now, riding on the open road with his 2 best friends behind him, he felt like all that hard work was worth it. The 3 boys had left the city 2 hours ago. They wanted to test their bikes on the country roads where there was less traffic. Minjun was 17 and the leader of their small motorcycle club. Well, it was not really an official club, just 3 friends who loved bikes and rode together on weekends. Behind him, Daehyun rode a red Honda. He was 18 and knew more about motorcycle engines than the other 2. His father owned a small repair shop in the city, so Daehyun grew up around tools and engines. He could take apart a carburetor and put it back together in less than an hour. The youngest member of their group was Jiwoo. At 16, he had just gotten his motorcycle license 3 months ago. His parents bought him a used Kawasaki for his birthday. It was not as fast as Minjun's bike or as reliable as Daehyun's, but Jiwoo loved it like it was the most expensive bike in the world. Minjun looked at his mirrors and saw his friends keeping pace behind him. The road stretched ahead empty and inviting. On both sides, rice fields spread out in endless green rectangles. A few farmhouses dotted the landscape, but mostly there was just open space and quiet. That was when Minjun's bike made a strange sound. It started as a small clicking noise from the engine. Minjun frowned and eased off the throttle a bit. Maybe he imagined it. But then the clicking became louder. It turned into a grinding sound like metal scraping against metal. His heart dropped. Black smoke suddenly poured out from under the seat. The engine sputtered and coughed. Minjun quickly signaled to his friends and pulled over to the side of the road. His beautiful bike was dying and he had no idea why. Daehyun and Jiwoo stopped behind him. All 3 boys got off their bikes and gathered around Minjun's Yamaha. The black smoke was still coming out, though it was less now. A burning smell filled the air. What happened? Jiwoo asked. His voice was worried. Minjun shook his head. He felt sick to his stomach. I don't know. It just started making this grinding sound and then the smoke came out. Daehyun knelt down next to the bike. He was already in mechanic mode, looking at the engine carefully. When was the last time you changed the oil? 2 weeks ago, Minjun said. I do everything on schedule. I keep a maintenance log. Let me check the fuel system, Daehyun said. He opened the fuel cap and looked inside. Then he examined the fuel lines and the injection system. His face grew more confused with each passing minute. Minjun paced back and forth on the side of the road. This could not be happening. He had only owned the bike for 4 months. Everything was still practically new. How could it break down like this? Jiwoo pulled out his phone. Should I call a tow truck? Check if you have signal first, Daehyun said without looking up from the bike. Jiwoo looked at his phone screen and frowned. Only 1 bar. It keeps disappearing. Minjun checked his own phone. Same problem. They were too far from the city. Out here in the countryside, cell phone reception was terrible. Daehyun stood up and wiped his hands on his jeans. He looked frustrated. I can't figure it out. Something is wrong with the fuel injection system, I think. But I need proper tools to diagnose it. We can't fix it here on the side of the road. So what do we do? Jiwoo asked. The 3 friends looked around. The highway was completely empty. No cars had passed in the last 10 minutes. The nearest town was at least 30 kilometers away. Even if they could call a tow truck, it would take hours to arrive. And that was if they could even get through on their weak phone signal. Minjun felt anger rising in his chest. This was supposed to be a fun day. Now his bike was broken. They were stuck in the middle of nowhere and he would probably have to pay a fortune to get it fixed. There has to be something nearby, Daehyun said. He was walking along the side of the road looking at the area around them. Like what? Minjun snapped. We are surrounded by rice fields. There is nothing here. But Jiwoo was looking at something in the distance. He pointed down the road. What is that? The other 2 boys followed his gaze. About 50 meters ahead, there was a small wooden sign on the side of the highway. It was old and faded, and they had driven right past it without noticing. Jiwoo jogged over to the sign and the others followed. The sign read, Parks Repair Service, 5 kilometer. with an arrow pointing down a narrow dirt road that branched off from the highway. A repair shop, Ji-woo said excitedly. Min-jun looked at the dirt road. It disappeared into a cluster of trees and fields. The sign was so old that the paint was peeling off. That sign could be 10 years old. The shop might not even exist anymore. But it might, Dae-hyun said. And it is only 5 kilometers. We can push the bikes there. Push? Min-jun looked at his bike. That is a 5-kilometer walk pushing a 200-kilogram motorcycle. You have a better idea? Dae-hyun asked. Min-jun did not. He pulled out his phone again and tried to call a tow truck, but the call would not connect. The signal was too weak. He tried 3 more times with the same result. Fine, he finally said. We will try to find this repair shop. But if it is not there, I am blaming both of you. Dae-hyun and Ji-woo exchanged a look but said nothing. They knew Min-jun was just upset about his bike. He had worked so hard to buy it. Seeing it broken down like this was painful for him. The 3 boys turned their bikes onto the dirt road. Min-jun and Dae-hyun pushed their bikes while Ji-woo rode slowly alongside them. His bike was lighter and he wanted to save their energy. The dirt road was rough and full of potholes. Dust rose up around their feet with each step. The afternoon sun seemed even hotter now that they were walking. Sweat dripped down their faces. Their arms began to ache from pushing the heavy motorcycles. They walked for 20 minutes without seeing anything except fields and trees. Min-jun was about to suggest they turn back when Dae-hyun pointed ahead. Look, there is something there. Through the trees they could see the shape of a building. As they got closer, it became clear. It was a small workshop made of metal sheets and wood. Motorcycle parts were scattered in the yard around it. Old tires were stacked against one wall. Hand-painted signs advertised repair services, though the words were faded and hard to read. But what caught their attention was the building itself. It looked half-abandoned. The metal walls were rusty. Weeds grew tall around the entrance. One of the windows was cracked. Is anyone even here? Ji-woo whispered. They pushed their bikes into the yard. The sound of their footsteps seemed too loud in the quiet afternoon. Min-jun looked around for any sign of life. He saw old motorcycle diagrams pinned to the walls inside, visible through the open door. Tools hung on racks, but no people. Hello? Dae-hyun called out. His voice echoed slightly. No answer. Maybe we should go back, Ji-woo said nervously. But Min-jun was already walking toward the entrance. He had come this far. He at least wanted to see if someone was here. His bike needed help, and this was their only option. Just as he reached the door, a sound came from inside the workshop. It was the clang of metal on metal. Someone was here after all. Min-jun stepped inside, his friends right behind him. The workshop was cluttered but organized in its own way. Every surface had parts or tools on it. Motorcycle engines in various states of disassembly sat on workbenches. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. And in the back corner, next to a very strange-looking motorcycle, someone was working. The figure was bent over an engine, completely focused on their work. They wore oversized blue coveralls covered in grease stains. A cap hid their hair. They had not noticed the 3 boys enter. Excuse me? Min-jun said loudly. The figure jumped slightly and turned around. They pulled off their cap and long black hair fell down past their shoulders. It was a girl. She looked about their age, maybe 17. Her face had a smudge of grease on one cheek. Her eyes were sharp and alert. She looked at the 3 boys with an expression that was not quite friendly, but not hostile either. Just cautious, we need help, Min-jun said, surprised at finding someone so young. My bike broke down. Are you the mechanic here? The girl wiped her hands on a rag. I am the only one here. What is wrong with your bike? The 3 boys stared at the girl. Min-jun could not hide his surprise. He had expected to find an older man, maybe someone with gray hair and decades of experience, not a teenage girl covered in grease. Ji-woo elbowed Dae-hyun and whispered something. The girl's eyes narrowed. She had heard it. Her expression turned colder. You have a problem with your bike or not? She asked. Her voice was direct and sharp. Min-jun cleared his throat. Yes. It started making a grinding sound and then black smoke came out. We barely made it off the highway. Did you push it here? The girl asked. Yes, about 5 kilometers. She nodded and walked past them toward the yard. The boys followed her outside. She went straight to Min-jun's Yamaha and knelt down beside it. Her movements were quick and confident. She opened the engine cover without asking for permission, and started examining the internal components. "When did this start?" she asked. "About 40 minutes ago," Minjun said. "It was running perfectly and then suddenly it was not." "Any warning signs before that?" "Strange sounds, smells, vibrations?" Minjun thought back. "Maybe a small clicking sound. I noticed it a few seconds before the grinding started." The girl's hands moved expertly over the engine. She checked connections, looked at the fuel lines, examined the air filter. Daehyun watched her carefully. He knew about engines, and he could tell that she knew what she was doing. Each movement had purpose. She was not randomly checking things. She had a system. "What about the exhaust?" she asked. "Did you notice anything unusual before the smoke?" "It smelled hot," Minjun said. "Like burning." She nodded again. She stood up and went to her workshop. She returned with a small diagnostic tool. She plugged it into the bike's computer system and watched the readings on the small screen. Minjun exchanged glances with his friends. Daehyun looked impressed despite himself. Jiwoo was just watching with wide eyes. After 2 minutes, the girl unplugged the tool. Fuel injection system failure. The injector valve is stuck partially open. That is why you got the grinding sound. The engine was not getting the right fuel mixture. The black smoke was unburned fuel. "Can you fix it?" Minjun asked. "Yes. I need to replace the injector valve and clean the fuel system. 2 hours of work." "Maybe less. How much?" 80,000 won. Minjun winced. That was a lot of money. But what choice did he have? They were stuck here. Getting a tow truck would cost almost as much, plus they would have to pay for repairs in the city anyway. "Fine," he said. The girl did not smile or thank him. She just nodded. "I will start now. You can wait inside or outside. There are chairs in the workshop." As she turned to go back inside, Jiwoo suddenly asked, "Did you really fix all these bikes by yourself?" He was pointing at several motorcycles parked against the wall of the workshop. They all looked repaired and ready to ride. "Yes," the girl said simply. "That is impressive," Jiwoo said with genuine admiration in his voice. For the first time, the girl's expression softened a tiny bit. "Thank you." Minjun walked over to the strange motorcycle he had seen earlier. It was in the corner of the workshop, partially covered by a tarp. Now that he looked at it closely, he could see it was completely unique. The frame looked like it came from one bike, the engine from another. The wheels were mismatched. Everywhere he looked, he saw parts that did not originally belong together. "What is this?" he asked. The girl was gathering tools from her workbench. She glanced at the bike. "My bike. You made this?" Daehyun asked, moving closer to examine it. "Yes." "From different parts?" Daehyun touched the frame carefully, looking at the welding work. "It was actually very good. Clean lines, strong joints. I built it over 18 months, the girl said. Used parts from bikes that people abandoned here. My father taught me how to weld." "Your father?" Minjun asked. "Where is he?" The girl's face became guarded again. "Not here. I run the shop now." There was something in her tone that told them not to ask more questions about her father. An awkward silence filled the workshop. "Does it actually run?" Minjun asked, looking at the homemade bike. He tried to keep the doubt out of his voice but failed. The girl stopped what she was doing. She turned to face him fully. "Yes, it runs, but I mean, can you actually ride it? On real roads?" "I ride it every day," Minjun laughed. He did not mean to. It just came out. "Come on, that thing looks like it will fall apart. It is made from junk." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The girl's eyes went cold. Daehyun made a small sound like he wanted to stop Minjun from talking, but it was too late. "Junk?" the girl repeated quietly. "I just mean, it is not a real bike. Not like mine. Mine is a Yamaha. Professional manufacturing. Quality parts. Your Yamaha that broke down after 4 months?" Minjun's face flushed red. That was just bad luck, was it? The girl walked over to her bike and pulled off the tarp completely. "I have been riding this for a year. 50 kilometers every day. It has never broken down, not once." "That is impressive," Daehyun said quickly, trying to ease the tension. But Minjun could not let it go. His pride was hurt. His expensive bike had failed him, and this girl with her homemade machine was making him feel foolish. "It probably does not even go very fast." "Fast enough," the girl said. "What, like 50 kilometers per hour?" "I have had it up to 140. Now Minjun really did not believe her. "No way, not on that thing." The girl studied him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Then something changed in her eyes. A challenge appeared there. "You think I am lying?" she asked. "I think you are exaggerating." "Fine." She crossed her arms. "Let me fix your bike first. Then we can settle this." "Settle what?" "You said your bike is better than mine." "Let us find out." Dae-hyun stepped forward. "Wait, what are you suggesting?" "A race," the girl said simply. "After I fix his bike."
Him and me.
"These back roads have a good 10-kilometer loop. We race and we see whose bike is really better." "You want to race me?" Min-jun asked. He felt excitement and nervousness at the same time. "Unless you are scared," the girl said. Ji-woo made a small sound. Even he knew those were fighting words. Min-jun could not back down now. "Not in front of his friends. I am not scared," Min-jun said. "But if we race, what are the stakes?" The girl thought for a moment. "If I win, you pay double for the repair." 160,000 won. Min-jun swallowed. That was a lot of money. "But if she lost, and if I win?" "The repair is free. You pay nothing. That changed things." Min-jun did a quick calculation in his head. He was confident he could beat her. His bike was newer, more powerful. Even if her homemade bike could reach high speeds, it could not handle like a professionally built machine. And he was a good rider. He had been practicing for 2 years. "Deal," he said, extending his hand. The girl shook it. Her grip was strong and rough from work. "Deal, but I need to fix your bike first. Can't have a race if you can't ride." She turned away and went to work on Min-jun's Yamaha. She pulled out the damaged injector valve with practiced movements. Her hands moved quickly and surely. She explained what she was doing as she worked, more to herself than to the boys. Dae-hyun could not help himself. He moved closer to watch. "Can I help?" he asked. The girl glanced at him. "You know engines?" "My father has a repair shop in Jeonju. I have been helping him since I was 12. "Then hand me that wrench, the 12mm. Dae-hyun found the tool and gave it to her. They worked together in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Dae-hyun asked questions about her technique. She answered them clearly and simply. Ji-woo watched with interest. Only Min-jun stood apart. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching. His stomach felt tight with nerves. Had he just made a stupid bet? What if she actually could ride that strange bike well? What if he lost? No, he could not lose. He had to win. His pride demanded it. As the girl worked, Ji-woo asked, "What is your name?" She did not look up from the engine. "Seo-yeon, I am Ji-woo. That is Dae-hyun. And the guy trying to look cool over there is Min-jun." Seo-yeon glanced at Min-jun briefly. "He does not look cool. He looks nervous." "I am not nervous," Min-jun said too quickly. "Sure," Seo-yeon said, returning to her work. 30 minutes passed, then 45. As Seo-yeon worked steadily, cleaning the fuel system and installing the new injector valve. Dae-hyun helped where he could. He was impressed by how organized she was. Every tool had its place. She never wasted a movement. "You said your father taught you?" Dae-hyun asked. "Yes, this was his shop, Park's repair service. He opened it 20 years ago." "Was?" Ji-woo noticed the past tense. "Does he not run it anymore?" Seo-yeon's hands paused for just a second. Then she continued working. "He got sick 2 years ago. Now I run it." "By yourself?" Ji-woo asked. "While going to school? I finished high school last year. Now I just do this." "That must be hard," Dae-hyun said quietly. Seo-yeon did not respond. She tightened the last bolt on the fuel system and stood up. "Done. Let me start it and check." She turned the key on Min-jun's bike. The engine came to life with a smooth, healthy purr. No grinding, no strange sounds. It sounded perfect. "Check the readings," Seo-yeon said, handing the diagnostic tool to Dae-hyun. He plugged it in and looked at the screen. His eyebrows went up. "Everything is perfect. Fuel pressure is exactly right. Air mixture is balanced. This is really good work." Seo-yeon allowed herself a small smile. "I know," she looked at Min-jun. "Your bike is fixed. Ready for that race?" Seo-yeon finished checking her bike. She wheeled it out into the yard where the late afternoon sun painted everything gold. The strange homemade motorcycle looked even more unusual in the bright light. Parts from different bikes were welded together, but Min-jun had to admit the welds looked professional. "Nothing seemed loose or poorly made, so how does this work?" Dae-hyun asked. "What is the race route?" Seo-yeon pointed down the dirt road. "Follow this road for 3 kilometers. It connects to a paved back road that loops through the hills. That road is 10 kilometers total. First one back here wins. 10 kilometers through hills, Min-jun asked. He had been hoping for a straight road where his bike's power would give him an advantage. Problem? Seo-yeon asked. No problem, Min-jun said quickly. Just wanted to make sure I understood. Dae-hyun and Ji-woo can wait at the halfway point, Seo-yeon suggested. There is an old shrine on the north side of the loop. They can confirm who passes first. That works, Dae-hyun agreed. He pulled out his phone. I can try to record it if the signal is good enough there. Ji-woo was already getting excited. This is going to be amazing. Like a real race. Seo-yeon went back into the workshop and returned with 2 bottles of water. She handed one to Min-jun. Drink, stay hydrated. Racing in this heat is dangerous if you are dehydrated. Min-jun took the water, surprised by the gesture. Thanks. I do not want you passing out and crashing, Seo-yeon said bluntly. That would be bad for my reputation. Min-jun could not tell if she was joking. Her face was serious, but there might have been a tiny hint of humor in her eyes. They all got on their bikes. Ji-woo and Dae-hyun led the way down the dirt road toward the paved loop. Min-jun and Seo-yeon followed more slowly, saving their energy for the actual race. As they rode, Min-jun studied Seo-yeon's riding style. She sat comfortably on her bike, completely relaxed. Her posture was perfect. She took the bumps in the dirt road smoothly, shifting her weight naturally. She had clearly ridden this route thousands of times. The dirt road met the paved back road after 3 kilometers, just as Seo-yeon had said. The paved road was narrow but in decent condition. It curved through green hills dotted with trees. In the distance, Min-jun could see the road climbing and descending through the landscape. Dae-hyun and Ji-woo stopped at the shrine Seo-yeon mentioned. It was a small traditional structure on the side of the road, old and weather-worn but still standing. This was the halfway point. We will wait here, Dae-hyun called out. Good luck. Min-jun and Seo-yeon rode back to the starting point together. Neither spoke. The tension between them was thick. Min-jun's hands felt sweaty inside his riding gloves. He wiped them on his jeans. They lined up their bikes side by side on the road. Seo-yeon's homemade motorcycle rumbled with a deeper, rougher sound than Min-jun's Yamaha. It sounded powerful but unrefined, like a wild animal compared to his bike's smooth purr. Rules are simple, Seo-yeon said. First one back here wins. Stay on the paved road. No shortcuts. If you crash, you lose automatically. Understood? Understood, Min-jun said. His mouth was dry despite the water. Count of 3, Seo-yeon suggested. Min-jun nodded. His heart hammered in his chest. 1, Seo-yeon said. Min-jun tightened his grip on the handlebars. 2, he revved his engine slightly, getting ready. 3, both bikes launched forward. Min-jun twisted the throttle hard and felt his Yamaha surge ahead. The acceleration was beautiful, smooth, and strong. Within seconds, he had a 3-meter lead, then 5 meters, then 10. Min-jun grinned inside his helmet. His bike was faster. This was going to be easier than he thought. He kept the throttle open and watched the speedometer climb. 80 kilometers per hour, 90, 100. The road straightened out ahead. Perfect. He could build his lead here before the curve started. He glanced in his mirror and saw Seo-yeon falling behind. Her bike was fast, but not fast enough. But then the road started to curve. The first turn was gentle, and Min-jun took it easily without slowing much. He was still ahead by about 15 meters. He felt confident. The second turn was sharper. Min-jun braked and leaned into it. His Yamaha handled it well, but he had to slow down more than he wanted to. As he came out of the turn and accelerated again, he checked his mirror. Seo-yeon was closer. Much closer how? He had just built a big lead, but she was only 10 meters behind now. The next turn came quickly. This one was even sharper, almost a hairpin. Min-jun braked harder, feeling his bike wobble slightly. He took the turn wide to maintain speed, but it cost him the perfect line. Seo-yeon took the turn completely differently. She braked later and harder, then dove into the inside of the curve. Her bike leaned over at an aggressive angle. Min-jun watched in his mirror with shock as she maintained that lean through the entire turn, her knee almost scraping the pavement. She came out of the turn right behind him. Maybe 5 meters back now. Min-jun's confidence started to crack. He twisted the throttle and accelerated hard on the straight section. His bike pulled ahead again, but now he understood. On the straights, his bike was faster. But in the turns, she was making up all that distance. The road climbed uphill. Minjun's Yamaha powered up the slope easily. He gained another few meters. The engine was strong and responsive. This was what he had paid for. Quality engineering. But at the top of the hill, the road turned sharply and started descending. Minjun had to brake heavily. The downhill turn was tricky. Too much speed and he would run wide. Too little and he would lose time. He tried to find the right balance but ended up being too cautious. He came out of the turn slower than he wanted, and that was when Seo-yeon overtook him. She went past on the inside of the next turn, her homemade bike leaning so far over that Minjun could not believe it stayed upright. She accelerated out of the turn ahead of him. Minjun cursed inside his helmet. He had just lost the lead. He twisted the throttle hard, chasing her. On the next straight section, he pulled up alongside her. His bike was faster in a straight line. He was going to pass her again, but then another curve came. Seo-yeon braked late and took the inside line again. Minjun had to brake earlier or he would have gone off the road. She pulled ahead once more. This pattern repeated for the next few kilometers. Minjun would catch up on the straights. Seo-yeon would pull ahead on the curves. It was frustrating. His bike had more power, but she knew this road perfectly. Every bump, every curve, every place where the pavement was rough. They reached the halfway point. Daehyun and Jiwoo stood at the shrine watching with wide eyes. Seo-yeon passed first with Minjun right behind her. Jiwoo was jumping up and down, excited by how close the race was. Now they were on the return loop. Same road, just going the opposite direction. Minjun knew what to expect now. He had learned the curves. He could do better this time. On the next straight, he pushed his bike even harder. The engine screamed as he accelerated past Seo-yeon. He was going 110 kilometers per hour now. Maybe faster than he should on this narrow road, but he needed to win. A sharp curve appeared ahead. Minjun remembered this one. He braked hard, but maybe not quite hard enough. He went into the turn too fast, his bike wobbled. The front wheel felt unstable. For a terrifying second, Minjun thought he was going to crash. His heart jumped into his throat. He had to brake more in the middle of the turn, which was bad technique. The bike slowed awkwardly. Seo-yeon went past him again, perfectly controlled through the same turn. Minjun felt frustration building. Why could she corner so much better? Was it just practice? Or was there something about her bike that made it handle differently? He realized something as he watched her ride. Her homemade bike was lighter than his Yamaha. Much lighter. She had built it from lighter parts and she had not added any unnecessary weight. A lighter bike could change direction faster in turns. Also, she rode differently than he did. Minjun had learned to ride on streets and highways. He was used to wide, smooth roads. Seo-yeon had learned on these narrow country roads. She knew exactly how far she could lean, exactly when to brake, exactly where to accelerate. They descended a hill together, almost side by side. The road was steep and the turns came one after another. Minjun's palms were sweating. He was riding at the edge of his ability. Any mistake here could mean a serious crash. Seo-yeon looked completely calm. She flowed through the turns like water, smooth and natural. She made it look easy. Another straight section. Minjun poured on the speed. He had to be ahead when they reached the finish line. That was his only chance. If he could build enough of a lead on the straights, maybe he could hold it through the final curves. He pulled ahead by 20 meters. Then 25. His engine was roaring. The wind buffeted his helmet. He was going as fast as he dared, but there were still 3 kilometers to go. 3 kilometers of hills and curves. Seo-yeon started closing the gap again on the very next turn. And the next? And the next. Minjun's arms were getting tired from the constant braking and accelerating. His shoulders ached from the tension. Racing was much harder than just riding. Every turn required complete focus. Every straight needed maximum commitment. They went over a rise in the road and the finish point came into view in the distance. Seo-yeon's workshop was visible maybe 2 kilometers away. So close. But there were still a dozen turns between here and there. Seo-yeon was right behind him again. Minjun swallowed hard. He pulled out his wallet and counted the bills inside. 120,000 won. That was all he had. He looked up at Seo-yeon with embarrassment burning in his cheeks. I only have 120,000. He admitted quietly. Seo-yeon's expression did not change. Then you owe me 40,000 more. Can I pay you the rest later? I can come back next weekend. For a long moment, Seo-yeon just looked at him. Minjun could not read her face. Was she angry? Disappointed? He deserved whatever she was thinking. He had made the bet confidently, never really believing he could lose. Fine, Seoyeon finally said. Pay me the 120 now. Bring the rest next week. Minjun handed over all his cash. His wallet was completely empty now. He would have to borrow money from Daehyun just to get home. The shame felt worse than the actual loss. I am sorry, Minjun said. I should not have been so arrogant. Your bike is amazing, and you are a much better rider than me. Seoyeon took the money and tucked it into her coveralls. Yes, you were arrogant. But you rode well. For someone who does not know this road, you did better than most would. It was not exactly a compliment, but it was not an insult either. Minjun found himself appreciating her honesty. She did not need to make him feel better, but she also was not rubbing his defeat in his face. How long have you been riding? Daehyun asked Seoyeon. Since I was 12. My father taught me on old bikes in the yard. By 14, I was riding on the roads. That is illegal, Jiwoo said, then immediately looked embarrassed. Sorry, I know it is illegal, Seoyeon said with a hint of a smile. But we live far from everything. No police come here. My father needed me to learn. Someone had to pick up parts from town when he was too busy. She went into the workshop and returned with a bottle of cold water from a small refrigerator. She offered it to Minjun first. He took it gratefully and drank half of it in one long gulp. The race had been exhausting. Seoyeon handed bottles to Daehyun and Jiwoo as well. They all stood in the yard, drinking water in the late afternoon heat. The adrenaline from the race was fading, leaving Minjun feeling tired and oddly emotional. Can I ask you something? Daehyun said to Seoyeon. Your bike. How did you learn to build something like that? Seoyeon leaned against her workbench. My father taught me. He could look at any motorcycle and understand how it worked. He taught me the same way. We started with small repairs when I was young, then rebuilds, then modifications. And the welding? Daehyun asked. That is really skilled work. Practice. Thousands of welds. My father made me weld the same joint 50 times until I got it perfect. Then 50 more times to make sure I could do it without thinking. Jiwoo walked around her bike looking at it with new appreciation. Why did you build this? Why not just buy a bike? Seoyeon's face became guarded again. That look Minjun had seen earlier when they asked about her father. Money, she said simply. Building this cost me about 1 million won in parts over 18 months. A new bike like Minjun's cost 3 or 4 million. I could not afford that. But you could race this? Minjun asked. Like in actual competitions? No, Seoyeon said. She looked at her bike with an expression that might have been sadness. Racing circuits require certified bikes, factory made with proper documentation. This would never qualify. That is not fair, Jiwoo said. Your bike is amazing. Fair does not matter. Those are the rules. Daehyun sat down on an old tire. Have you ever wanted to race? Like professionally? Seoyeon did not answer right away. She looked out at the hills and the setting sun. When she spoke, her voice was quieter. Yes, I wanted to enter the amateur circuit. There is a series of races for riders under 25. The winners get prize money and sometimes sponsors. Why do not you? Jiwoo asked. Entry fee is 2 million won. Plus I would need a qualified bike. And time to train properly. I'm too busy running the shop. By yourself? Daehyun asked. Yes, what about your father? Minjun asked gently. You said he was sick. Is he? He is alive, Seoyeon said quickly. But he cannot work. He had a stroke 2 years ago. Now he is in a care facility in Jeonju. I visit him twice a month. The 3 boys were quiet. They were beginning to understand Seoyeon's situation. A teenage girl running a repair shop alone, taking care of a sick father, probably barely making enough money to survive. That must be really hard, Jiwoo said softly. Seoyeon shrugged. It is life. Someone has to do it. Before anyone could say more, they heard the sound of a motorcycle approaching. This one sounded expensive. A deep, powerful rumble that even Minjun's Yamaha could not match. A man rode into the yard on a Ducati Panigale. It was bright red and looked brand new. Probably cost 8 million won or more. The man was in his 30s wearing expensive riding gear. His helmet had a custom paint job. He stopped his bike and removed his helmet. He had styled hair and an arrogant smile. Everything about him screamed money. Hello, Seoyeon, he said. His voice was smooth but cold. I was in the area. Thought I would check on you. Seo-yeon's entire body went tense. Hello, Tae-sung. Still playing mechanic in Daddy's old garage? Tae-sung looked around the yard with obvious disdain. How is business? Getting any customers? Business is fine. Really? Looks pretty dead to me. He noticed the three boys. Oh, you have customers today. Congratulations. Did you charge them your usual bargain prices? 20,000 won for an oil change? He laughed. No wonder you are not making any money. Min-jun did not like this guy at all. Neither did Dae-hyun and Ji-woo from the looks on their faces. What do you want, Tae-sung? Seo-yeon asked. Her voice was flat. Just checking in. Seeing how you are doing with your financial situation. He smiled wider. Speaking of which, you have 3 weeks left? Until the end of the month? Seo-yeon said nothing. Let me remind you, since you might have forgotten. Your father took a loan from me, 15 million won for his medical treatment. The agreement was he would pay it back in 2 years or I get this property. Min-jun's stomach dropped. This was much worse than he thought. 2 years is up at the end of this month, Tae-sung continued. He was enjoying this. So you need to pay me 15 million won in 3 weeks. Think you can do that? I will pay you, Seo-yeon said through gritted teeth. Really? How much have you saved so far? 2 million? 3 million? Tae-sung walked around the yard like he already owned it. This land is worth 20 million easily, maybe 30. Location is decent. I could develop it. Turn it into something actually profitable. This is my father's shop, Seo-yeon said. Her voice was shaking slightly now. He built it from nothing, and now it is worth nothing. Just like him. Tae-sung's words were cruel. Your father was a fool. He should have sold this place years ago. Instead he held on, got sick, and now you are drowning in debt trying to save a business that cannot be saved. Min-jun could not stay quiet anymore. Hey, you do not need to talk to her like that. Tae-sung looked at Min-jun like he had just noticed an insect. Who are you? Just a customer. But you are being really rude. Rude? I am being honest. Something you kids probably are not used to. Tae-sung turned back to Seo-yeon. 3 weeks. Then this place is mine. Unless you have 15 million won lying around somewhere. Seo-yeon stared at the ground. She looked smaller somehow. Defeated, Tae-sung got back on his expensive Ducati. See you in 3 weeks, Seo-yeon. Start packing. He started his bike and rode away, leaving a cloud of dust. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The sound of Tae-sung's motorcycle faded into the distance. The sun was getting lower in the sky, painting everything orange and red. Seo-yeon, Ji-woo said carefully. Is what he said true? She nodded without looking up. My father needed surgery and treatment. Insurance did not cover it all. Tae-sung offered to loan us the money. My father was desperate. He signed the agreement. 15 million won, Dae-hyun whispered. That is impossible, Seo-yeon finished. Yes, I know. I have saved 4 million won over 2 years. But I need to pay for my father's care facility, and food, and parts for the shop. There is never enough left over. Can you get a loan from a bank? Min-jun asked. Seo-yeon laughed bitterly. Banks do not loan money to 18-year-old girls with no job history and a failing business. I already tried. What about your family? Relatives? Dae-hyun suggested. My mother left when I was 6. My father was an only child. His parents are dead. I have no one. The 3 boys looked at each other. They all felt terrible. Here was someone their own age, dealing with problems that seemed impossible to solve, and they had just shown up, made jokes about her bike, and challenged her to a race. The racing circuit, Ji-woo said suddenly. You said winners get prize money. How much? The amateur circuit has races every 2 weeks. First place gets 20 million won at the championship. 20 million, Dae-hyun said. That would solve everything. But I cannot enter, Seo-yeon said. I do not have 2 million won for the entry fee. And even if I did, my bike does not qualify. I would need to buy a proper racing bike. Those cost at least 5 million won used. Plus I would need safety gear, transport to the races, time to practice. She shook her head. It is impossible, Min-jun was thinking. His mind was racing through possibilities. His father owned a motorcycle shop in Jeonju. Not a big shop, but it did decent business. The next Saturday morning, Min-jun stood in his father's motorcycle shop in Jeonju. The shop was small but clean, with rows of parts on shelves and 3 repair bays. His father, Park Sang-woo, was working on a customer's bike when Min-jun came in. Dad, I need to talk to you about something important. His father looked up from the engine he was adjusting. He was in his late 40s with grease permanently under his fingernails and kind eyes. Sounds serious. What is it? Minjun told him everything. The breakdown, finding Seo-yeon's shop, the race, and most importantly, Seo-yeon's situation with the debt and the racing circuit opportunity. His father listened without interrupting. When Minjun finished, Park Sang-woo wiped his hands on a rag and thought for a long moment. 15 million won is a lot of money, he finally said. I know, but if she wins the racing championship, the prize is 20 million. She could pay back the loan and still have money left over. And you think she is good enough to win? Dad, she beat me easily on that country road. She is really talented. You should see her ride. His father smiled slightly. She beat you? That must have hurt your pride. It did. But it also showed me how good she is. I have been riding for 2 years and I practice all the time. She rode circles around me. Park Sang-woo walked over to his office desk and pulled out a worn notebook. He flipped through pages of contacts and notes. The amateur circuit. I know the organizer. Lee Jin-ho. We went to school together. Really? Minjun felt hope rising in his chest. He could probably help with the entry fee situation. Maybe let her pay in installments if I vouch for her. His father kept flipping pages. The bike is a bigger problem. Racing bikes are expensive even used. What if we loaned her one? Just for the races? His father shook his head. Insurance regulations. If she crashes, we would be liable for damages. And racing is dangerous. Crashes happen all the time. Minjun felt his hope deflating. He had been so sure his father could help. But, his father continued, I do have that old Suzuki in the back, the GSXR. Customer abandoned it 6 months ago when he moved to Japan. Never paid his final repair bill. I was planning to sell it for parts. The blue one. That still runs? Needs work, but yes. Engine is solid. Would need new tires, brake pads, chain. Some cosmetic fixes. Park Sang-woo rubbed his chin. If your friend is as good a mechanic as you say, she could do the work herself. I could provide the parts at cost. No profit for me, Dad, that would be amazing. Hold on, I am not done. If she wins any prize money, she pays me back for the parts. Plus 10%. That is the deal. It is not charity. It is business. She would prefer that anyway. She does not want charity. His father smiled. She sounds proud. I like that. He wrote something in his notebook. Bring her here next weekend. I want to meet her. If she is as good as you say, we will work something out. Minjun wanted to hug his father, but that would be too embarrassing. Thank you, Dad, really. Do not thank me yet. This is a big risk. If she does not win, we lose money on the parts. And you are going to help in the shop for free to cover some of that cost. That is fair. Minjun pulled out his phone and texted Daehyun and Jiwoo. They needed to tell Seo-yeon the good news. Later that afternoon, the 3 boys rode back to Seo-yeon's workshop. The dirt road felt familiar now. When they arrived, they found Seo-yeon working on a customer's bike. An older man was waiting in the yard drinking tea. Seo-yeon looked up when they arrived. She looked tired, like she had not slept well. You came back. We said we would, Minjun replied. He waited until the customer left before explaining about his father's offer. As he talked, Seo-yeon's expression changed from guarded to surprised to hopeful. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Your father would really do this? She asked. Yes, but it is not charity. You would pay back the parts cost plus 10% from any prize money. That is fair. Seo-yeon looked at her hands covered in grease from the repair she was doing. I do not know what to say. Say yes, Jiwoo urged. You deserve a chance. But what about the shop? I cannot leave it closed to go train and race. That is the other part of our plan, Daehyun said. We help you. On weekends we come here and help with repairs. That frees up your time to train. You would do that? We like working on bikes anyway, Daehyun said. And I need more practice. My father says I should learn from other mechanics. Different people have different techniques. Plus it would be fun, Jiwoo added. Better than sitting around at home. Seo-yeon blinked rapidly. She was fighting tears again. Why are you all being so nice to me? Minjun thought about his answer carefully. Because you showed me something important. You work hard. You do not complain. You do not give up even when things are impossible. That is worth supporting. And because we are friends now, Jiwoo said simply. Friends help each other. A single tear ran down Seo-yeon's cheek. She wiped it away quickly and stood up straight. Okay, let us do it. But I will pay back everyone, and if I win, I buy you all dinner. An expensive dinner? Deal, Minjun said, grinning. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning. The first race was in 4 weeks. That gave them 1 month to prepare. Seo-yeon would meet Minjun's father next weekend to see the Suzuki and start repairs. Dae-hyun would create a training schedule. Ji-woo would handle social media, posting about the shop to bring in more customers. As they worked on the plan, Minjun watched Seo-yeon. She was different now, still serious and focused, but there was light in her eyes that had not been there before. Hope. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Minjun's father met Seo-yeon and was impressed immediately. She looked at the abandoned Suzuki with expert eyes, identifying every problem and estimating repair time accurately. They made a deal. She would fix the bike in his shop where she had access to better tools. In exchange, she would help with repairs in his shop 2 days a week. Dae-hyun brought a trailer so they could transport the Suzuki to his father's shop. Seo-yeon worked on it every Tuesday and Thursday after helping customers. She replaced the tires, installed new brake pads, fixed the damaged fairings, and tuned the engine until it purred. The Suzuki became beautiful under her hands. It was not brand new, but it looked and ran like a professional racing bike. On weekends, the 3 boys went to Seo-yeon's workshop to help with customers. Business was picking up. Ji-woo's social media posts were working. People from Jeonju started driving out to the countryside to meet the mechanic girl they had seen in videos. Seo-yeon used the extra time to train. She rode the country roads for hours, practicing racing lines and building endurance. Minjun rode with her sometimes, learning new techniques and trying to keep up. She was faster than he remembered. Or maybe she was getting even faster with focused practice. Either way, watching her ride was like watching an artist. Every movement had purpose and precision. Minjun also arranged a practice session at a proper racing track. His father's friend Jin-ho agreed to let Seo-yeon use the track for free one evening when it was closed. She brought the Suzuki and ran lap after lap, learning its handling characteristics. She is good, Jin-ho said to Minjun as they watched from the sidelines. Raw talent like this is rare, but talent alone does not win races. What else does she need? Minjun asked. Experience, confidence, racing strategy. Jin-ho watched Seo-yeon take a corner at high speed. She is fast in the corners but too cautious on the straights. She needs to trust the bike more, trust herself more. Over the next practice sessions, they worked on that, building her confidence, teaching her to push harder. Seo-yeon was a quick learner. She absorbed feedback and improved immediately. The shop was transforming too. With more customers and more money coming in, Seo-yeon could afford small improvements. She bought better tools, fixed the broken window, painted the exterior sign so it was readable again. One evening, as they all sat in the workshop after a long day, Seo-yeon pulled out her savings notebook. She counted the money carefully. 7 million won, she announced. I saved 3 million more this month. That is amazing. Ji-woo said. It is not enough, Seo-yeon said. Even if I win the championship, that is 20 million. After I pay your father back for parts, I will have maybe 17 million. I still need 15 million for the loan. That leaves only 2 million to keep the shop running and pay for my father's care. The math was tight. Too tight. One unexpected expense and everything could fall apart. Then you need to win, Dae-hyun said. First place. No second or third. No pressure, Seo-yeon said with a weak smile. You can do it, Minjun said firmly. I have watched you improve these last 3 weeks. You are ready. The night before the first race, they all stayed late at Park Sang-woo's shop. They went over every part of the Suzuki one more time, checked tire pressure, tested brakes, made sure every bolt was tight. Minjun's father came over to watch. You have done good work, he told Seo-yeon. This bike is race-ready. Thank you for the opportunity, Seo-yeon said. I will not let you down. Just ride safe. Winning is good. Not getting hurt is more important. They loaded the Suzuki into a trailer. Tomorrow they would drive to Seoul for the race. The track was a professional circuit that hosted amateur events once a month. 30 riders would compete. Only one would win 20 million won. Race day arrived with perfect weather. Clear blue sky, mild temperature, light wind. Minjun's father drove the trailer with the Suzuki, while the 4 teenagers followed on their own bikes. The drive to Seoul took 2 hours. The racing circuit was impressive. A proper professional track with grandstands, pit areas, and safety barriers. Amateur racing day brought dozens of competitors and hundreds of spectators. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement and the smell of racing fuel. Seo-yeon was quiet during registration. She filled out forms with shaking hands. Min-jun noticed but said nothing. Being nervous was normal. It showed she cared. They unloaded the Suzuki in the pit area. Other teams had fancy setups with multiple crew members and expensive equipment. Seo-yeon's team was 4 teenagers and 1 middle-aged motorcycle shop owner. But what they lacked in resources, they made up for in determination. Rider meeting in 10 minutes, an official called out. All racers to the briefing room. Seo-yeon started to walk toward the building, but Ji-woo stopped her. Wait, we should do something. Like a team ritual. A ritual? Seo-yeon looked confused. Yeah, sports teams do it. Something to pump everyone up. Dae-hyun put his hand in the center of their circle. How about this? Everyone put your hand in. They all put their hands together in a pile. 5 hands from 5 different people who barely knew each other a month ago. Now they felt like family. For Seo-yeon, Min-jun said. And for the shop. For beating that jerk Tae-sung, Ji-woo added. For proving that talent matters more than money, Dae-hyun said. For my father, Seo-yeon said quietly. And for all of you. Hi, team. Park Sang-woo watched with a smile. You kids are going to make me emotional. Now go to the meeting before you are late. Seo-yeon went to the briefing while the others prepared the bike. They checked everything one final time. This was it. No more practice. No more preparation. Just 30 riders and 25 laps of intense competition. The racing format was simple. Qualifying rounds in the morning to determine starting positions. Then the main race in the afternoon. Highest combined score from both rounds would win the championship. Seo-yeon returned from the briefing looking more nervous. There are some really experienced riders here. People who have been racing for years. And, Min-jun asked, you are better than them. How do you know that? Because I have seen you ride. Trust yourself. The qualifying round began. Riders went out in groups of 5 racing for 3 laps. Times would determine starting positions for the main race. Seo-yeon was in the 3rd group. She put on her helmet and racing suit. The suit was borrowed from Min-jun's father's shop, slightly too big, but it would work. She checked her gloves and boots one more time. Ready? Park Sang-woo asked. No, but I am going anyway. She rode the Suzuki to the starting line. The 4 other riders in her group looked professional. Expensive bikes, custom gear, focused expressions. Seo-yeon looked young and out of place next to them. The starting flag dropped. 5 bikes roared to life and surged forward. Seo-yeon got a decent start, but 2 riders jumped ahead of her immediately. She was 3rd going into the first corner. Min-jun watched through binoculars from the grandstand. His heart pounded as he watched Seo-yeon lean into the turn. She took a tighter line than the riders ahead and gained a little ground. The second corner was a long, sweeping curve. Seo-yeon stayed patient, not forcing anything. She was learning the track, understanding how the Suzuki handled on this different surface. By the end of the first lap, she had moved into 2nd place. The rider in first was fast, maintaining his lead through technical sections. But Seo-yeon was closing the gap 2nd lap. The leader made a small mistake coming out of a hairpin turn. His rear wheel slipped slightly on some loose gravel. He recovered quickly but lost momentum, as Seo-yeon did not hesitate. She dove to the inside and overtook him before the next corner. Now she was in first place. Yes, Ji-woo shouted, jumping up in the grandstand. Go, Seo-yeon! The final lap was intense. The rider she had passed was right behind her, trying to find an opening. Every corner was a battle. Every straight section pushed both bikes to their limits. Seo-yeon crossed the finish line first. By only half a second, but first was first. Her qualifying time was the 3rd fastest of all 30 riders. That meant she would start the main race in the 2nd row. A good position with a real chance to win. When she came back to the pit area, she was breathing hard and sweating. She pulled off her helmet and her hair stuck to her face. But she was smiling. That was incredible, Dae-hyun said. 3rd fastest time? I made mistakes, Seo-yeon said, always critical of herself. That hairpin on the back section. I braked too early. And the chicane before the main straight, my line was wrong. But you still got 3rd, Min-jun pointed out. Imagine what you will do when you fix those mistakes. They had 3 hours before the main race. Seo-yeon ate lunch but could barely taste the food. Her mind was on the upcoming race. 25 laps. That was long. That was a test of endurance and concentration as much as speed. Park Sang-woo gave her advice about racing strategy. Do not try to win in the first few laps. Let the aggressive riders make mistakes. Stay consistent. Wait for your moment. As race time approached, the grandstands filled with spectators. More people than Min-jun expected. Amateur racing was popular in Seoul. People loved watching young riders compete. Seo-yeon put on her gear again. Helmet, gloves, boots. She looked at the Suzuki that she had rebuilt with her own hands. This bike was her ticket to saving her father's shop. No pressure, she said to herself. Just 25 perfect laps, easy. Min-jun laughed. You will do great. We believe in you. The riders lined up on the starting grid. 30 motorcycles arranged in rows based on qualifying times. Seo-yeon was in the second row, position 3. 2 riders were directly ahead of her. 27 were behind. The starting lights began their countdown. 5 red lights illuminated one by one. Then they all went out. Green flag. 30 bikes launched forward in a roar of engines. The start was chaos. Riders jockeying for position, trying to gain places before the first corner. Seo-yeon got boxed in and lost a position. She was 4th now. The first lap was conservative. Nobody wanted to crash. Everyone was learning the track, feeling out their bikes. The top 3 riders pulled slightly ahead. Seo-yeon stayed close, riding smart. By lap 5, the race had settled into a rhythm. The leader was a young man on a Kawasaki, clearly experienced. Second place was a woman who rode aggressively, taking risks in corners. Third was an older rider who seemed smooth and calculated. Seo-yeon was still 4th, but she was patient. She watched the riders ahead, learning their patterns. The aggressive woman was fast but inconsistent. She would brake late into corners but sometimes ran wide on exit. That was an opportunity, lap 8. Going into a tight left-hand corner, the woman braked too late. She had to stand the bike up to avoid running off track. Seo-yeon was ready. She took the inside line and passed her cleanly. 3rd place now. The grandstand erupted in cheers. Min-jun and the others were screaming support. Seo-yeon could not hear them through her helmet, but somehow she felt their energy. The older rider in 2nd place was more difficult to pass. He left no openings. His lines were perfect, but Seo-yeon noticed something. He was consistent but not pushing hard. Maybe he was conserving energy for the end of the race. She decided to apply pressure. She stayed right behind him within 1 second, lap after lap, making him know she was there. Making him think about her instead of just riding his own race. Lap 15, 10 laps remaining. The leader was pulling away slightly. The older rider was maintaining 2nd. Seo-yeon was stuck in 3rd. Then on lap 16, the pressure paid off. The older rider glanced back to check where Seo-yeon was. That moment of distraction made him miss his braking point by just a little. He went slightly wide on a corner. Seo-yeon pounced. She dove inside and accelerated hard out of the turn. She was past him. 2nd place! Now only the leader was ahead. 3 seconds between them. 9 laps to close that gap and find a way to pass. Seo-yeon pushed harder. She started taking risks, braking later, accelerating earlier out of corners. The gap began to shrink. 3 seconds became 2.5. Then 2 seconds, the leader noticed. He started pushing harder too. For 3 laps, they both rode at the absolute limit. The gap stayed at 2 seconds. Neither could gain or lose ground. Lap 22. 3 laps remaining. Seo-yeon's arms were burning from the effort. Her concentration was slipping. She made a small mistake and ran slightly wide. The gap increased back to 3 seconds. In the grandstand, Min-jun was devastated. She is losing ground, but Park Sang-woo stayed calm. Watch. She is learning something. On lap 23, Seo-yeon did not try to close the gap. She just maintained her pace, conserving energy, preparing for a final push last lap. The flag marshal held up the white flag. This was it. Now or never. Seo-yeon dug deep. She found energy she did not know she had. She braked later than she ever had before. She leaned further into corners. The gap started closing again. 3 seconds. 2.5. 2 seconds. 1.5. The leader was tired too. On the final corner before the main straight, he made a mistake. Just a tiny one. He ran slightly wide and had to correct as if Seo-yeon was right there. She took the inside line and both bikes came out of the corner side by side.